Good morning, Sin City, and welcome to another episode of the Las Vegas Social Media Show right here on the Social Network station. I'm your host, Sam Dever. Today we have a very, very special guest. We have Richard Krawczyk, also known as Mr. Blueprint. Richard, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Sam.
It's a pleasure. It's a great pleasure and an honor. And the name Mr. Blueprint, I love it. It reminds me of like Mr. 3000. You know, it's epic. So can you kind of tell us how you came up with it? What inspired the name?
Well, I mean, if you look at the spelling of my last name, it's "Can I buy a vowel, please?" So I had to think of something. It's like you find me on Twitter, Kawasaki, Krasinski. How does that go? I don't know.
Right.
So it all came down to my childhood. Actually, I grew up in a very small town outside of Chicago, about 30 miles outside Chicago, a little town called Lake in the Hills, Illinois. Population 5,000.
Wow.
Now, the great thing about living in a small town is that everybody knows everybody. The bad thing about a small town is that everybody knows everybody.
Knows everybody, right.
Exactly. And I remember when I was about 12 years old, there was a house being built at the end of our block. And in a small town, obviously when something happens, because nothing ever happens in a small town, so when something happens, all the neighborhood kids take notice. And this was in the summertime, I remember. And after a few weeks, I was watching this the whole time, their whole process. Because at the beginning of the day, people would go around this one truck. Some guy would open up the pickup truck, with the cab or something on it, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
And they would look at these rolls of paper, and then they'd kind of nod and talk to each other, and they'd go about their day, building this thing. And at the end of the day, they'd again meet by the truck, open up the papers, and start talking. They'd be nodding their head and things like that, then go. Since it was outside Chicago, I'd probably drink a lot of beer. After about a week or so of seeing this, I went down to the job site. And when I graduated high school, I was 6 foot tall, 135 pounds. I was so skinny I had to run around the shower to get wet. Matter of fact, somebody wrote that in one of my yearbooks. Dodging the raindrops,
Right.
So when I was 12 years old, I was obviously a lot smaller. That's obviously before I took up bodybuilding, which was like another lifetime ago for me. And I marched onto the job site. I go, to the foreman. I said, "Who is the person in charge?" And he's like, with a big stogie in his eye, "Yeah, me, kid. What do you want? You're bothering me." One of those type of things,
This should be a movie.
This should be a movie. And he said, "I am." He goes, "What do you want?" I said, "Well, I've been watching you guys for a while, and you meet every day." And I was going through the process. And I said, "What are these rolls of paper?" He goes, "They're blueprints." I'm 12 years old, and I go, "What's a blueprint?" He said, "Well, kid, it's like this." The person who wanted to buy the house talked to the builder, with the architect and everything, and they want the house built a specific way. If we don't build this house to spec, exactly as it says on the blueprint, within a fraction of an inch, the doors may not close, the air conditioning may not work, and if the foundation isn't set right, the whole house can come tumbling down around you.
Right. That's
how important a blueprint is. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm 12 years old. Sometimes you get something at an age and it's kind of like over your head. It's so profound that you don't realize it till years later. Well, fast forward 82 years where I'm at right now. And I was thinking, well, if there's a blueprint to build a house, a car, a computer, a radio. Remember the radios? People still have radios, I think, but they're all digital now.
Yeah.
Thanks to the internet. The listeners are probably watching and listening to this stream over the internet right now. And I said, well, if there's a blueprint for everything, there's got to be a blueprint to how to be successful in life, how to run a good business, how to have a healthy relationship, how to be healthy yourself. And I thought to myself, there's got to be a blueprint for social media. I look for the commonalities in everything, and I just break everything down to 5 surprisingly simple steps, and that's how I developed the blueprint. So, hence the name Mr. Blueprint, because you can't spell, let alone pronounce my last name.
No, I love it. It's great. I love the brand. Can you kind of go into a blueprint to become successful in social media?
Yeah, I could do that. As I mentioned before, the blueprint consists of 5 surprisingly simple steps. Now keep in mind, just because it's surprisingly simple doesn't mean it's easy.
Right.
Sometimes, something's very simple, but it's easier said than done.
And this would be your Elate system, correct?
Yeah, that would be my Elate system.
Okay.
That's how I came up with it. Elate, if you actually Google it, it actually means bring joy and happiness. So when you're dealing with social media, who wouldn't want to bring joy and happiness in social media? And let me break up the Elate system for you. Elate.
I want to say elite, but I had Elate.
Elate.
E-L-A-T-E.
E-L-A-T-E.
Okay.
It's an acronym, oddly enough.
So break it down for us. Could you do that?
Absolutely. Well, the E in Elate talks about escaping your mental prison. Because in social media, there are a lot of people that are out there that want to get started with social media, whether it be a business to raise visibility for their business, increase sales for their business,
Right.
or just for an individual wanting to make a lot of connections or start working on a personal brand, something like that. You're thinking that you have to be some big Fortune 500 company to be successful in social media because they have all these consultants that they hire. They have a team of people that are managing
Right.
social media. And it's really not that case. It's really not the case. Perfect example, if you follow people on social media, specifically on YouTube, there's somebody really huge named Chris Pirillo.
Yeah.
And he has a show every day about techie, geeky type stuff, and he just shoots it from his desk, pointing at him with his computer screen in the background. He just starts talking about what's going on with this, what's going on with that. It shows you what's on the computer screen, and he got an endorsement deal from T-Mobile.
Wow.
He's actually in commercials for T-Mobile just for doing a YouTube thing.
And he's not in a multi-million-dollar studio. He's
No,
just at his house.
Basically in his house
awesome.
with a camera.
Wow,
so,
that's incredible.
So you could be very, very simple to get started with social media. Just be authentic. Be yourself. Escape your mental prison. There are things that you don't really need. If you just have the basics, focus on the basics, you'll do really well. Example, I'm sure you've heard of John Wooden, who was the coach of the UCLA basketball team for like years and years, and like for years and years.
The Wizard of Westwood.
The
right?
Wizard of Westwood,
Okay.
exactly. And his men's basketball teams would win the NCAA championships every single year, it seemed. And the funny thing is, everybody knew what John Wooden was going to run. It was the same offense, simple, very simple, but they executed in such a way where nobody could stop them. Nobody could stop them. And that's why they kept on winning, because they did something very simple over and over and over again. You stick to the basics, you do well. So E in Elate is escape your mental prison. L in Elate means lay out your personal blueprint. Okay, now that you've escaped your mental prison, let's start figuring out how we're going to do what we're going to do. In talking about building a house, per se, you can't just say, okay, we have the land over here. Let's start putting up some walls. Let's just put a piece of wood right over there. Well, how tall do you want it? Oh, I don't know, about this tall. What angle do you want it? I don't know. And unfortunately, being a former investment banker, I've seen it seems like a gazillion business plans and private placements, people trying to raise money for this or that. And they have a blueprint. They have their plan. They have they laid out their personal blueprint for their business. For people that want to go public or raise money, I can tell you how many small business owners that I talk to, that I work with, and I start asking them questions about laying out their personal blueprint, and they have no idea where to get started, let alone how to go to the next step or the next step or the next step. All they know is like, well, Twitter was featured on Oprah, so I know I have to be there.
Right.
Right. So
right.
I don't know what I'm doing. So, which goes into the A of Elate, which means access specialized knowledge. Access specialized knowledge. And the reason why I came up with that is the first billionaire in the world, Andrew Carnegie, who was the mentor of Napoleon Hill, who wrote the book, Think and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich,
exactly. Yeah. And one of the best-selling personal development books of all time outside of the Bible. And he told Napoleon Hill, and he interviewed like 500 experts.
Yeah.
The best of the best. And they all kind of went around the same thing. And what Andrew Carnegie told Napoleon Hill was this: if you could find somebody that could do something better than you, let them do it. You can't be the master of your domain and everything is your domain. It's physically impossible. Outsource it to people who know more than you, which is why I do a lot of consulting and coaching with small businesses, or just develop systems for them, because they don't know. So then we go to the T in Elate, which means take massive inspired action, which means now you escape the mental prison, you lay out your personal blueprint, you got personal access, specialized knowledge, so you know what you're doing, then you take massive action, take everything to the next level. And E in the Elate system is this. This is probably the most powerful and important part of the Elate system. And that's expand your heart. It's all about the power of giving. How many nonprofits are you helping with your business? How many nonprofits are you partnering with for your business? How many nonprofits are looking for somebody just like you to sit on their board of directors to give them more visibility, maybe be helping something in the community, a religious organization? There are a lot of businesses that need help, and they're looking for people just like you to help them bring visibility, bring in donors, things like that, and you're giving back to the community. And even if it's not working with nonprofits, it could be a Big Brother, Big Sister program. It doesn't cost any money for this kind of stuff. It just takes your heart and some time.
Wow, that's amazing, Richard. And really quick, we're going to do a quick break here. Could you, where can we find you at?
You could find me everywhere on social media. On Twitter is at the Mr. Blueprint, and my website is www.themrblueprint.com.
Very well. Everyone, check him out, please. We have a lot more from Richard, Mr. Blueprint, coming up. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back on the Las Vegas Social Media Show.